My name is Doug Hagman. I'm the founder and director of the Northeast Intelligence Network at HomelandSecurityUS.com. With us tonight, very, very happy to have Mr. Steve Quayle, a good friend of mine. Folks, he's got a terrific website. He really needs a guy that doesn't really need any kind of introduction. I want to give it to him anyway. Prolific author, researcher, a veteran talk show host, just an all-around great guy, Mr. Steve Quayle. SteveQuayle.com is his website, and with Steve as well, with us as well, is Mr. Greg Evenson, and of course, folks. If you've never been to his website, go to his website, and his bio is there. It's all about him is there. It's theheartlandusa.com. With that, gentlemen, welcome to tonight's broadcast.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and Greg, welcome. This is going to be another one of those shows. Just for all your information, we've got some pretty distinguished guests of 4 stars and above listening to this show right now. From the black side, I was notified less than a half an hour ago that there seems to be a lot of, how should we say this, interest and concern in what we're going to be talking about.
You know, Steve, every time you and I hit the airwaves, we reach a new level with that, but it is good to be with all of you gentlemen. Thanks for letting me be with you tonight.
Well, God bless you both, and I'll tell you what, we are praying, Joe and I pray for your safety daily, and certainly we are thankful for what you folks do. I don't think there is a show that we've done with Steve that has not gone viral. Now having Mr. Evenson on as well, this is going to just throw everything into a whole new level of viral and I want to say virility. That might not be the right word, but anyway, I'm not going to take away the time of our guests. So let's get right into everything. Steve, what's going on? What in the world is going on? I guess.
Well, Doug, we are basically watching the rape, pillage, and plunder of the United States, which has gone under. The constitutional republic is gone. As you stated from your source in your marvelous article, which, by the way, excuse me, has set the world aflame, the planned re-election of Obama, revolutionary style. It's amazing that when you said that your source told you that the average American will put up with being sexually groped and nuked just to fly, they'll accept almost anything. That's why their actions are becoming more overt. It's in your face, and the brass actually chuckled about it, said your source. This is what people have got to get through tonight. You know, Greg and I spoke just briefly before the show, and we're praying that God is going to lift the veil off of the denialists and those who call themselves Christians, those who may not be Christians but are getting it. And now the lateness of the hour demands that we bring everyone up to speed. We have an invasionary force in the United States of America right now. And Greg and I both have independent sources, as you do, Doug. We never ask each other's sources. But when every single witness, when every single word, when every single story can be validated and verified 3 or 4 times, not at the expense of causing someone's life to be taken. But the point is that we're at that point tonight. And, Greg, I want to turn it over to you just to basically bring in the most current data, because we were announcing that there were 2,000 Spetsnaz troops coming into Colorado. And for people not understanding that, Colorado is the provisional capital of the United States. Once Washington, D.C. gets nuked, the Illuminati's already given the go-ahead. It's a matter of any time. And, look, the idea that 2,000 was a lot was offset by some pretty horrific numbers. So, Greg, we'll just go back and forth, and when you're finished, I don't want to ever talk over either one of you guys, so just tell me when you're done for the moment, and I'll fill in the blanks. But I think it's important, Doug, that you and I and Greg give the combined, if you will, 3 sides of their triangle and how the attack is already underway. This isn't anything prophetic now. This thing is underway. It's going. It's coming down. We don't know the day or the hour. It's the grace of God that will give us that heads up and plenty of time, I believe, to warn the people of God. But if the warning doesn't take and the people of God don't act, And if they wouldn't act up and stand up against having their private parts literally penetrated, groped, ripped, and if they wouldn't stand up for little children being brutalized or quadriplegics or people in wheelchairs, my guess is there's very few people who will stand up. Now, Greg, I'll give it over to you.
Well, Steve, thank you. And Doug, the latest information that I received even today indicates that we are literally at the cusp of this massive overtaking of what has been left of our republic. The military and the police forces, which I'm most familiar with, having been a state trooper in Kansas for several years, and maintaining contacts throughout the Midwest and other states as well, all indicate to me clearly that the plan that has been evolving over the last several years, and Steve, we've talked about this many times, which includes the familiar litany that I normally roll out in discussions like this, which includes, of course, the shutting down of the major arteries of the country in all across the country, but especially in the choke point areas where two interstates come together. That plan has been refined. The state troopers out in their cars have been issued CDs they are sealed and put in evidence safes in their cars or in their trunks, and they're checked weekly by supervisors so that if they are opened and the contents of those doomsday CDs are revealed, those officers will no longer be on the force effective immediately. It is a scenario that only Hollywood would or could come up with. Unfortunately, it is happening as we speak. Now,
let me interrupt you for a second.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, I've got numerous requests here, and my apologies, sir, for not giving you a proper introduction. You were a former state trooper, is that correct?
That's right.
All right, and just tell people a little bit about yourself briefly, if you don't mind. I apologize.
Sure. My life in law enforcement goes back in military as well, but the law enforcement aspect of it started in the early 1970s in the Kansas City area. I applied for and was accepted by the United States Secret Service as a special agent. Unfortunately, the time there was extremely short as a budget cut knocked out several of us that had been brought on specifically to aid in the time for protection of presidential candidates after the shooting of George Wallace. And so that moved me into the Kansas State Troopers, a position I coveted because of the men and women that worked there, mostly men at that time, who were great professional investigators and wonderful people. I cherish that time. But I was known, Doug, as a peace officer. That's the difference, you see, when the militarization of the American police came into effect about 20 years ago, and they became involved in this mission essential mindset of the military, the role of the police officer in the community changed, and it changed forever. I'm a remnant of what was. And I'm proud of that. And there are a lot of men out there still who are at the end of their careers, and they're saying, look, the last thing I can do is kind of keep you informed because things are changing horrifically on a weekly basis, and you need to know this because I know you broadcast, and the quicker you get it out there and people understand what is happening, the evolution of law enforcement in this country into something of a tyrannical nature, then they will begin to understand the threat that is hanging over our heads right now tonight.
Yeah, folks, there are his street creds. Now, I don't want to hear anyone else or anyone assailing anyone's credibility because we are basically under attack here, by individuals who are, as you mentioned before. I suppose I should have expected this, but this man knows of which he's talking about. But you're telling us, just to be clear, that last point you made before I rudely interrupted you and asked you to, give your bona fides. Just tell me again. We've got police out there. The police. You mentioned about the dash cam recordings. Is this what you're referring to?
Not the dash cam necessarily, although that is a high-profile instrument that they use for evidentiary purposes. But this is their onboard computers.
Okay.
It has been reported to me by state troopers in the Midwest that they were issued a CD in a most secure manner, that they cannot open it unless there would be a moment that would call for it. In other words, if there was a lack of communication or cutoff of any official word from their state headquarters by way of some catastrophic event, and so they could continue to carry on as they were required to do by both the state and the Homeland Security representative that's on site at virtually all of the state police and highway patrol headquarters across country.
Okay, so this is basically a doomsday CD?
No, yes, that's a great way to put it.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I wanted to make sure because I was getting a couple of different. I had heard something about the dash cams and about some integration with the dash cams, and I just wanted to make sure. So, basically, there's a doomsday CD out there. When everything hits the fan, that CD goes into play. And what's on it? I mean.
Well, basically, it will be the last protocol of those things that need to be carried out until communication is reestablished between states or between the state and Washington, D.C., or its remaining point of command and control. And that well could be Denver. But the fact is that these folks who I speak to on a weekly basis just keep me upgraded as to what's happening. The amount of training, Doug, that they have been going through in the last year or year and a half has been more than they have in decades prior to that. It is ongoing. It is continuous. It changes to fit the current mission, if you will, of what the State Police and Highway Patrol are going to be integrated into doing and expected to do. In fact, ordered to do by their superiors. Now, you understand that there will be a point where designated sheriff's officers, state troopers will all be nationalized or federalized to take in their manpower to be used in a crisis. Now, that in itself, well, I'll tell you, Doug, if things were normal, if everything was good, that wouldn't be a bad plan. But with those that are in control, both in the Pentagon and at the federal agencies, indeed Homeland Security, which to me is one of the most horrific creations ever considered. Only Nazi Germany could have come up with something better, and I'm not sure they could have come up with anything better. I think we've done that all on ourselves. I am fearful of the potential of the Department of Homeland Security. I am fearful of an agency that would direct officers in another state, and I'll give one for an example, Georgia. We had a Georgia State Patrol officer call into another show I was on a couple of years ago and say that, they were directed to do training that indicated that when they went door to door to confiscate weapons, that the slightest, the smallest amount of resistance was to be met with overwhelming lethal force. When you have that kind of training regimen going on, and when you have the kind of expectations that the people do, that their police officers are going to indeed protect and not attack, then they're going to be shell-shocked beyond any kind of understanding when it goes the other direction. And that is why unprepared Americans and Americans who just continue to be in denial will be the first ones to walk up to the camps and say, I'm here for my 3 meals and a cot. That's what's going to take them there. And Doug, they're going to go there by the hundreds of thousands, indeed millions.
Willingly, and that's what my
yes.
source said. And I couldn't. Wow. Talk about the intersection of information and confirmation by 2 different sources.
And
wow.
Steve, I saw something on your website today. A few things. One, going back to what you said about Russia, and I was going to ask your thoughts on this number of the Russian troops that they're talking about being here, the 30,000 to 100,000 troops. How accurate do you think that is?
Well, I will tell you this, that multiple verifications, command sergeant major, 2 different people, CIA agent who basically went rogue. And by the way, I want you to know something, Doug, and everyone in the chat room. That chat room is being stacked with a lot of shills. I'm telling you point blank. This is Northcom's procedure. They'll try and attack me. They'll try and